Let me see.
So this is part 2. I don't know if we have any new folks on here, but we're going to show a video to start with that sort of recaps the first part of the session in case there is anybody new on here, and just as a good overview for those of you who were on our earlier session. And I swear I'm not a ghost. I'm really, really washed out, but I do. We went to the beach, but I was in the shade with the baby, so.
Yeah. We can go ahead and pull up the video, so you'll see it here in one moment. The Family Wellness Brain Builders. Yeah. So this is a video. It is by the Alberta Family Wellness program. It's called Brain Builders Video. It's about a 3 to 4 minute video. Like Lauren mentioned, it'll kind of recap some of the stuff that we had mentioned and talked about there. So give me one moment here. Pull this up.
That's it.
Okay.
No, the last one that you were on.
This one right here? Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's about a 4 minute video, and we'll pull it up on YouTube, and I'm going to go ahead and get the screen sharing on. So it'll display the correct one. And you should hear the video here shortly.
Science tells us lives actually affect the physical architecture of the developing brain. This means that brains aren't just born, they're also built over time based on our experiences. Just as a house needs a sturdy foundation to support the walls and roof, a brain needs a good base to support all future development. Positive interactions between young children and their caregivers literally build the architecture of the developing brain. Building a sturdy foundation in the earliest years provides a good base for a lifetime of good mental function and better overall health. So just how is a solid brain foundation built and maintained in a developing child? One way is through what brain experts call serve and return interactions. Imagine a tennis match between a caregiver and a child, but instead of hitting a ball back and forth across a net, various forms of communication pass between the two. From eye contact to touch, from singing to simple games like peekaboo. These interactions, repeated throughout a young person's developing years, are the bricks that build a healthy foundation for all future development. But another kind of childhood experience shapes brain development too, and that's stress. Good kinds of stress, like meeting new people or studying for a test, are healthy for development because they prepare kids to cope with future challenges. Another kind of stress, called toxic stress, is bad for brain development. If a child is exposed to serious ongoing hardships like abuse and neglect, and he has no other caregiver in his life to provide support, the basic structures of his developing brain may be damaged. Without a sturdy foundation to properly support future development, he is at risk for a lifetime of health problems, development issues, even addiction. It's possible to fix some of the damage of toxic stress later on, but it's easier, more effective, and less expensive to build solid brain architecture in the first place. One of the things that sturdy brain architecture supports is the development of basic emotional and social skills, an important group of skills which scientists call executive function and self-regulation can be thought of like air traffic control in the child's mental airspace. Think of a young child's brain as the control tower at a busy airport. All those planes landing and taking off and all of the support systems on the ground simultaneously demand the controller's attention to avoid a crash. It's the same with a young child learning to pay attention, plan ahead and remember, and follow lots of rules. Like all of us, kids have to react to things happening in the world around them, while also dealing with worries, temptations, and obligations on their minds. As these demands for attention pile up, air traffic control helps a child regulate the flow of information, prioritize tasks, and above all, find ways to manage stress and avoid mental collisions along the way. Having this ability is a necessity for positive and level mental health. Developing effective air traffic control, overcoming toxic stress, and building solid brain architecture are things kids can't do on their own. And since strong societies are made up of healthy, contributing individuals, it's up to us as a community to make sure all young people have the kinds of nurturing experiences they need for positive development. To build better futures, we need to build better brains.
Alrighty. 1 second as we transition out of this video. Where I feel like with Zoom and everything, I need like 6 different screens just to be able to manage all of the items that we're going to be doing. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the PowerPoint so everyone can see what is going on. All right, you guys should be able to see our screen here. Now, perfect.
You got it.
We're getting good at this. My background was actually in information technology, so whenever I'm messing up, I feel like a lot of shame and guilt, like I'm not doing my schooling right by not being able to function a basic PowerPoint presentation sometimes. So, alrighty. Let me get this to show the correct one in presenter mode.
That one is a presenter mode. You just need to. Oh no, it's not.
It is actually. There we go. Look at us, guys.
Okay,
we got our lives together. Awesome. So we played that 4-minute video for you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and skip over to our next slide on here and let Lauren take that over for a minute.
Okay. So we know that what we do to create caring communities and supportive families gives us the greatest return on our investment. Building healthy brains is the foundation for healthy, successful children and communities. So let me bring up some notes here for a second. Okay, so we're ready to move on to the next slide, Michael. So the family is the child's first and foremost environment. And if we want to help children, then we need to reach out to the parents and meet them where they are in terms of their life experiences to provide the support that they need to develop caring, supportive relationships with their children. The more connections, the more relationships, the better it is for kids developing brains, for parents, families, and ultimately for our communities. So there's something called the two-generation approach, which focuses on creating opportunities and support for both parents and children together. And I don't know, Michael, if you can share that link in the chat box, but for more information, you can go to this website. It's the aspeninstitute.org, and you would want to search two-generation approach on their website. But for 21st century, we know that we're mandated to not just serve the children, but also to have opportunities for parents as well. And that can be super challenging. I know for our program, that's one of the things that is most challenging for us is developing those relationships with our kids' parents, but that is critical. In order to have the biggest impact in our kids, we also want to be able to reach their parents as well. And Michael, I know that you were going to share a little bit about some strategies that we use to reach parents. Just side note, so we do after school programming, but Michael is also a church planter. So we have a church plant in the community where we have our after school programs. We also live in the community where our church and after school programs are located. So we're uniquely situated to really build lots of connections with our kids and families. And Michael's just going to share a bit about some of the strategies that we use and how important it is to build those relationships with the parents as we're working with the kids.
Yeah. So as Lauren had mentioned, I'm a church planner. We plant churches. I'd say maybe 3 or 4 years ago, it all blurs together. When we had the opportunity to plant our church, we actually planted an after school, that sounds weird, but we put an after school program in our facility that our church is actually based. So for the first 2 years, we really didn't even hold any services because we realized that the greatest need was for our community to have a safe place for kids and families to be. So a part of that approach was us looking at holistically, how does the after school program serve the community? How does it also serve the families? But just from a personal aspect, from our church, we also realized, I said, well, I can't ask a person to come to our church if they don't have food, if they can't eat, they can't read. So what we really focused on is being a part of the neighborhood and being a part of the community. So that as we serve with our youth ministry, Undefeated Youth, we put a focus on about 15 hours of the week working with the kids and the families together. So our goal is that ideally, whenever we make contact with the kids, we do a follow-up that same week with the parents to ask and to talk with them about, what are some of the situation things that they're going, and how do we build together these relationships so it's not just the kid coming and being the person who is in charge of, it's not just the kid coming to our church or Undefeated Youth, but we also really want to focus on the parent being the person who does spiritual formation for that child. And we really adapted it also for our after school programs, that we want the child's parent to be first and foremost the educator. And if it means that they have to learn together, we'll do so. But the average day for us can look like one of my Undefeated Youth kids who also comes to the after school program can be at our house playing basketball. And the mom will literally come by. This is a conversation we had last week. The mom is coming by, and I go inside and I get our baby Naomi. We're talking with the mom about what's going on. We're talking about our student. We're just talking about life. So it builds a holistic work that we're doing, is saying we're not just going to take care of your kid, but we care about you. We care about your life. We care about the concerns that you have. And it's really helped us to build better neighborhood connections, so that when there is an issue, we're one of the first people that they call immediately for us to be able to help and navigate these situations and such. But it's just all about that, developing the connections and saying that we're going to care about the child and we're going to care about the family. And I think there's a lot of resources that go untapped in the faith-based community with helping us to do so. There's many other people and volunteers out there that want to help.
So here's another resource that we have for you guys. Michael's going to put another link in the chat box. And this resource talks more about the importance of relationships, and it describes relationships as a close, secure connection that's formed through emotional bonding and interactions. And these bonds are strengthened by shared experiences, the things that we do every day as a family or with friends to help out a neighbor or someone who we see needs a helping hand. So it really is about those shared experiences, and becoming trauma informed helps us see that all people through the lens of compassion. So we make connections, every connection that we make a positive encounter. So, they say, you never know what someone's going through. So you want to make sure that every opportunity that you have to make a connection is one that's positive, and it is geared towards building those connections. So one thing that we want you to do right now is we want you to try to build a connection with somebody that you already have a relationship with. If you could, think of a friend or somebody that you know that you haven't talked to in about 6 months or so, and go ahead right now and just send them a little text and let them know that you're thinking about them. You just wanted to check in on them and see how they're doing. So if you could take just a few seconds to get out your phones and just text somebody that you haven't really connected with in the past 6 months, and just take time to let them know that you're thinking about them. Okay, so hopefully you guys have had a chance to do that. Can you go to the next slide, Michael? So the resiliency of an individual depends to a great extent on what the relationships and the community they live in. So the more that we learn about resilience, the more we recognize that in the systems around us, whether it's family, school, neighborhood, church, our friend groups, that it's all about building that connection and the influence and the ability of both children and adults to be resilient. So that's why connections matter. And right now, we want to have you guys take time to think about what resiliency looks like to you and how it developed, how you developed your resiliency. I think we're supposed to, oh, that's the next slide. But yeah, right now, just think about what resiliency looks like for you and how you develop that resiliency. So the resiliency can take on many forms, and this slide shows a few examples of the way that we can demonstrate resilience. It could be asking for help or looking to accept help, also developing a sense of belonging through friendship, cultivating hope and trust. So I think that there's a poll. I'm not sure if the tech team developed this or not. If they did, if they could put up a poll asking, do you like asking for help? And if we don't have a poll, we'll just put in the chat box, do you like asking for help? Oh, here we go. So text 1 if yes, you like asking for help, or text 2 to that number if no, you don't like asking for help. And the number to text is 218-304-4241. Or you can go to theswiftpolling.com and enter that code. Michael keeps moving the screens around on me, so I'm like, my eyes are going everywhere, so I apologize. Let's see, we got some responses yet? Doesn't look like we're getting any, oh, here we go. So 100%, nobody likes to ask for help, which
I don't want to talk to none of y'all. It's you know why? Because we're all directors and we're too independent and we're always helping people. I don't know how they changed.
Okay, we got some people that do like to ask for help, but still, by and large, most people don't like asking for help. Michael, do you like asking for help?
It depends. Not particularly. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a pride that's associated with it, and I realize this as a director. You feel like you always have to have the answers, and you're always giving the answers. And it's, to me, I don't know if you feel like it's nice sometimes when you don't have to be responsible for something, but you know, I feel like you just give and give and give answers all the time. But I don't necessarily like to. I like to learn and try to figure out on my own if possible.
Okay. So we have a second poll. It's, do you like giving help? So if the tech team could get that poll up for us. Do you like to give help to folks? Ooh, what's going on? Okay, here it is. Do you like helping others? 218-304-4241. Yes, we are in a helping profession. We like to help others. So there's really a disconnect there. People don't typically like to ask for help, but more than often than not, people do like to give help. So I think part of the disconnect is really like, how do we ask for help? So there is a little activity that goes along with this slide. We don't really have time to do it, but Michael, if you scroll down in the notes, there's a little, like a prompt. Let's see.
It's on slide 20.
Okay. So this one doesn't, never mind, this doesn't really apply to that. But as we can see, you know, it's hard for us to ask for help sometimes, but it's important that we make ourselves vulnerable to some extent with the people that we're working with, so that they know that they can ask for help and that, you know, we're willing to give that help. So do you want to go to the next slide, Michael?
Mhm.
Okay. So we're going to do some more polls on this slide. You need to scroll down to the bottom for the notes.
Is it 20?
I think you skipped 20.
We got 20 up here.
Okay. Can you scroll down a little bit? So this goes back to being vulnerable and asking if you're able to share your feelings. Michael keeps switching the slides on me. Okay, here we go. So the next poll question is, are you comfortable expressing your feelings? And that sort of goes along with, are you willing to ask for help? I don't know if the poll is available or not.
You can put it in the chat box if
Okay.
needed.
And then the other one is, do you want other people to be comfortable expressing their feelings? And so this is where the prompt that we have comes into play. A little saying that you can help, like little fill in the blank, saying that you can help express your feelings. So Michael, can you scroll down? Okay, here we go. Are you comfortable expressing your feelings? No. So we've got a little thing to help you scroll back up. You know, learn how to express your own feelings, but also teach kids how to express their feelings. That's something that is so important. Kids don't automatically know how to express their feelings, their needs, their wants. That's something that we have to teach them. And this is something that we've really learned with our 11-year-old daughter, KK.
Mhm.
But this little fill in the blank can help you to teach kids how to express their feelings, and also to help you express your feelings as well. So it says, I feel blank when you blank because blank. I want you to blank. So
that sounds like a Mad Lib, and you can
It
put some
does,
bad
really.
words in there. Some of your
So-
kids probably have, but I'm going to put it in the chat box.
So this is something that you can use, or you can use with your kids to help them learn how to share their feelings, and this will also help build trust among participants. If you know, modeling how you express your own feelings and then teaching them how to express their own. Okay, can you scroll down on the notes to see if there's anything? Is there anybody that wants to practice using this prompt to express feelings? Any brave soul that wants to unmute? No? Okay, do you have an example, Michael?
I want to make sure the volume's up on here. I really couldn't hear anyone. I thought I heard someone speak in there.
I think they unmuted, but then they muted back.
Did they get scared?
I think so.
It's okay.
We get scared too.
Yeah. So let me pull it up on my side so I can see specifically what was being said.
So I feel, and this could be positive or negative.
Yeah, it says can't see it. Let me make sure that it's sharing the correct screen here.
It's not on the slide.
I put it in the chat box there. Yeah, so we put it in the chat box, the specific prompt that is in there. If anybody wants to look through the chat box, and if you want to be a brave soul and give some feedback on that, we'll give it a second.
I'll do it.
Thanks, Marcy.
I feel angry when you ignore me because it overwhelms me. I want you to talk to me.
That's a great,
Mhm.
and that's, you know, one of the biggest challenges with our 11-year-old was just helping her to learn how to express her emotions and feelings.
Right.
What was it, that one situation where like, you don't have to do this, like you can,
Right. Giving options
yeah,
as to, I think it was a very much fight response for about the first 6 months. And it was just giving the option, like, you can be mad. It's okay to be mad, but how do you express how you're being mad
Your
is
anger,
the
yeah.
real aspect. And making sure that feelings and emotions are being are honored in those moments and times. But I think that's a part of, telling us why you're upset about something. It can be like, well, I want to go outside. Well, why are you upset that you can't go outside right now? And, like we mentioned here, just being comfortable with expressing feelings and emotions and such.
And so just to reiterate, it's so important that we model that for our kids. We can't expect them to learn how to share their own feelings and their own emotions when we're not able to do that ourselves. So that's something where we really need to model those things with our kids, and also just keep in mind any cultural or ethnic heritage and how that might play into the sharing of feelings. But once again, just modeling that is critical when we're working with kids.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and share our next slide.
Okay. So we've got a next slide has a video on it. So we're getting that queued up.
Wait, it's not sharing. Like it's sharing.
You need to go to the next slide.
Okay. This is it.
Yeah, you need to show the video.
Okay. So we're going to show a video here of everyone's favorite person in the world, Mr. Rogers. He's doing an Emmy acceptance speech. He's got some good information here. Give me one moment to pull up the speech. We'll get it played for you guys.
For giving generation upon generation of children
No, I don't play it from the beginning. Just play it from 40 seconds.
confidence in themselves, for being their friend, for telling them again and again and again that they are special and that they have worth. It is my honor, on behalf of everyone here and on behalf of the millions of children whose mornings you have brightened with your kindness, to present you with this Lifetime Achievement Award.
Oh, it's a beautiful night in this neighborhood. So many people have helped me to come to this night. Some of you are here, some are far away, some are even in heaven. All of us have special ones who have loved us into being. Would you just take, along with me, 10 seconds to think of the people who have helped you become who you are? Those who have cared about you and wanted what was best for you in life. 10 seconds of silence. I'll watch the time. Whomever you've been thinking about, how pleased they must be to know the difference you feel they've made. You know, they're the kind of people television does well to offer our world. Special thanks to my family and friends and to my coworkers in public broadcasting, family communications, and this academy for encouraging me, allowing me all these years to be your neighbor. May God be with you. Thank you very much.
All righty. We can switch over back to the PowerPoint here.
Right there, the bottom left.
I don't know if that's actual presentation or not, sorry. We'll go ahead and get this back up from the current slide. What slide number are we on?
We're on slide 21.
Gotcha. From the current, there we go. So it does a full screen item here whenever,
It's not shared yet.
yeah. There we go.
You just shared our desktop. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. We're still learning. Can you scroll down to the? So in that video, Mr. Rogers asked us to think about the people in our lives who loved us into being. And in this time, what we'd like to do is do a breakout, a small group breakout, and for you guys to discuss a resiliency trait that you have and who taught you that. Who's that person in your life that loved you into being and helped you to build resiliency, and how did they demonstrate that trait? So can we go into a breakout for how many minutes?
I'd say we got a little bit of time, 5 minutes?
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
5 minutes.
5 minutes on there. So our IT persons will work. They'll get you guys into a breakout here momentarily.
I don't think that they're sending us to the breakout room. So if anybody wants to share either in the chat box or unmute yourself, who is somebody in your life who loved you into being, who taught you skills?
Oh, yep,
here we
there they
go.
are.
Here we go.
If you guys should have a prompt now to join your all's breakouts. We just wanted to check and see if everyone had made it back from their breakouts. You can give us a thumbs up, or you can throw a yes in the chat box there. Makes my chat box. Alrighty. So everyone should be returning back from their breakouts. I think the technician is letting everyone know we got about 10 minutes remaining. So we can go ahead and start moving forward with the remainder of this session. Here. What slide is this?
We should be, well, do we want to report back on, we're on slide 21. Do you want to report back on folks who have,
yeah, I think we've got about 8 more slides, so we'll move forward with kind of the information that's there.
okay, there's not a lot on
Yeah. We want to give some time for Q&A at the end for people to touch base and talk also.
there. Okay,
So,
you go ahead.
so this is on slide number 22, and it's given the information about how relationships can be so powerful and protective that they can even prevent physical health problems that are more likely to occur with stressful environments. All of the examples in this slide, as we see here, there's helping a child at mealtime and bedtime. That was one of the biggest things that we have implemented in our household, is that we sit together, we eat together, we talk together, we read a little bit at dinner time. It gives a lot of positive time for us to talk and builds those connections. Lots of hugs and affection. When I was leaving, I asked the question to KK. I said, I'm getting my laptop together and everything. I said, is there anything that I can get you before you leave? You got your iPad, you got your, the other laptop. And she just said, can I just get one more hug? I'm like, you can get all the hugs in the world. That makes a huge difference. Playing imaginary games and singing songs, to-do list. All of these things are examples in this slide were part of a study that demonstrated how supportive maternal caregiving reduces the likelihood of stress-related illnesses like asthma and such among children who are growing up in homes with high domestic violence, who are at a higher risk of being diagnosed with asthma due to the stresses they are experiencing at the home. So nurturing relationships can be a game changer, even in the tough times that our students may face with the trauma and ACEs that they may be dealing with. And this is about the healing power of relationships in adults. Many times when people talk about trauma, we always talk about the adverse childhood experiences and such. Well, yeah, we focus so much on the kids, but there are so many families and adults who are experiencing the trauma also. So when we talk about a death in a family, we must make sure that our kids are getting the right counseling that they need. But many of us, we have to reach out to those parents to make sure that they are receiving the right counseling and coping skills, because ultimately the parent is going to be the greatest influence in the household. So we need to make sure that they are able to teach their kids outside of our after school times and our school times, how do they cope and how do they deal with stressful situations. So relationships not only help us to help us to cope with and recover from stressful situations, they also improve our quality of life. When we have strong connections and supportive relationships in our lives, we have a better physical and mental health. We even live longer and richer lives. So being socially connected actually helps our brains to be sharper, better cognitive skills. But would you believe that having more connections can turn back the clock on your brain? So many of the damage and things that may have been done in our childhood as adults, as we build these healthy connections, it can reverse some of the damage that may have been done so we can continue to cultivate healthy mindsets. So what is it? So, well, that's exactly what the researchers at the University of Iowa are seeing in their genetic studies with the fruit flies and such like that. So they give an example of how with fruit flies, they've done research and it's helping them to explain let's explain what has been long observed in relationships with improved with youth and improving the health and with senior citizens and such like that. So the findings that they have on here, they translate into huge savings for community in terms of lower healthcare costs, lower crime, fewer social problems, and think of what is think of what is possible when we come together as a community to support policies and practices to value these relationships. Now, so on slide 24, we have on here this helping parents, helping the kids. And it's an approach that addresses the needs of children without helping their parents, usually leave out either the child or the parent. So when we do these approaches, sometimes after school programs, it leaves one of the two out. So when we reach out and we support children and their parents together, we see far greater results than the sum of their parts on here. So the two generational approach recognizes that when we reach out and connect with parents, we have a powerful effect on their children also. So recognition of the importance of the two generational approach has led to more effective whole family interventions that work with parents and their children together. These interventions address a wide range of issues, including substance abuse, mental illness in a family, and poverty. It gives a really good example on how a Head Start program in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that is helping parents to earn their college and their associate degrees in the healthcare field while their children are in Head Start. Why? Why is that important? Because while we know that investing in early childhood education will yield a 7 to 10% increase return on the investment and reduce social costs, we also know that a parent who completes a college degree doubles his or her income. So it's a $3,000 difference in the parent's home income, while when their children are young translates into 17% increase in that children's future earnings. So it makes a good economical sense to invest in supporting parents and children together. Let's see. What's this slide? My computer's lagging here. You want to read this one?
Okay. So we know for a fact that caring, successful communities are built through healthy, supportive relationships. And it just happens one relationship at a time. So communities that are connected through close and supportive relationships are safer, kids do better, and even those kids who face struggles and tough times do better, and overall people are healthier. So really, the main point of this presentation is just having you guys understand that relationships are the things that build successful kids and successful communities, and that we can do that one relationship at a time. And schools, as well as after schools, are an important part of community change needed to address some of these adverse childhood experiences. So Washington uses a model for community change and to use ACEs and brain science as a framework for addressing major issues in communities across the state. Their goal was to increase learning and use data to build leadership capacity among all the members of the community, to invent the actions and strategies that address trauma. So the self-healing community model, Washington developed a strong networks that promoted much greater collaboration across sectors. They empowered local leaders and nurtured sector leaders to think about whole systems, not just their part of the system. They also used data to decide how and where to focus efforts and to learn from what was working. They made visible changes that helped to instill a real sense of hope in communities that had given up on their prospects of a better world for their children. So over 10 to 15 years in Cowlitz County, Washington, this is some of the outcomes that they had through these integrated systems. Births to teen mothers went down 62% and infant mortality went down 43%. Youth suicide attempts went down 98%, and youth arrests dropped for violent crime to 53%, and high school dropout rates decreased by 47%. And there were similar results in other counties. So across the state, over a decade, communities were able to. Sorry, I didn't mean to change the slide.
We got 2 minutes left.
So we're really able to make an impact through working together, and that's something that. You know, as after school program providers, we need to look at the other organizations in our communities that are working with similar goals and figure out how we can work with them to make the biggest impact and provide a whole network, a web of supports for the kids that we're working with. Earlier in the presentation, I talked about just a little bit. I mentioned our partner Arts in Action that provided the Laugh Lab, which helped kids to deal with tough topics such as bullying through comedy. And so, you know, in our programs, it's so important for us to connect with other organizations that have similar goals so that we can best reach our kids and provide them with a variety of opportunities to make those connections. And I think that our after school programs are a great place for that to happen. To bring in outside organizations and people to build those connections, give plenty of opportunities for kids to connect with a positive adult and build resiliency through relationships.
Yeah. So as we're kind of closing out here, just a reminder that you know, each of us has an opportunity to create positive change through the purposeful development of caring connections. So these are the opportunities that we have in our after-school programs for us to be able to build these bridges and help out some opportunities and such like that.
So these slides are just examples how people are building connections in their community.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy is Odell, and he lives in an inner city neighborhood, and he's a leader in his neighborhood. He worked to renovate a park that became a haven for drug dealing. Him and his neighbors held chicken dinners to raise money and form partnerships with the Boys and Girls Club, the city park department, and the local Major League Baseball franchise to renovate the park. And it went from a haven for drug dealing to a community park that's a center where neighbors in need, that the elderly receive meals, and that youth groups get together. So as you can see in this example, it's just not one person or one organization. It's multiple people, multiple organizations working together to develop those communities and build those relationships. So we want you to think of simple everyday examples, something that you can do today, tomorrow, next week, that can help build your community and build relationships. If you want, you can post that in the chat box, something that you can do in the near future to help foster relationships and build those meaningful connections, whether it's in your after school program or in another community in which you belong. So if anybody wants to drop in the chat box one actionable step that they can take to connect with people, whether it's a kid in your after school program or maybe a neighbor. Okay, so the tech guy has to end the session for the next session, but as we head out, please just think about something that you can do to help build those connections, to help kids build resiliency.
Thank you guys for participating. We appreciate you through all of our technical stuff like that. I hope you all have a good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.